In January 2017, the legendary actor Sir John Hurt, who Doctor Who fans would remember most notably as the War Doctor, sadly passed away. A month later, the fourth audio box set he had been recording for Big Finish Productions as the War Doctor was released posthumously after his death, and it included a tribute to the actor. And that was it for War Doctor content, apart from the comics, of course. But yeah, there would be no more War Doctor stories in audio form. That was until 2020, where actor Jonathan Carley was cast to play the War Doctor, or rather a young version of the War Doctor, in a new series of audios produced by Big Finish Productions that would serve as prequels to the original box sets and stories set in the earlier days of the War Doctor. And these would be the War Doctor Begins box sets. The first one, Forged in Fire, would be released in June 2021. And it is fucking awesome! Let's do this! Hello, ladies and gentlemen, Nick here, and welcome to this review of Doctor Who, The War Doctor Begins, Forged in Fire, the first box set of the War Doctor Begins prequel audio box sets, and the fifth War Doctor audio box set overall, and it's also the first to star the fantastic Jonathan Carley as the War Doctor, taking over from the late great Sir John Hurt. Before we begin, Jonathan Carley is absolutely fantastic as the War Doctor. I thought so on my first viewing. On my first listen of this box set. On my second listen for this review, I heard part of the first story not long after finishing the last episode of the original box set, the Enigma Dimension. So I started listening to the first episode of Forged in Fire, Light the Flame, about a few seconds later, and it's uncanny. Jonathan Carley is probably in my opinion, the best actor impersonator of a Doctor, apart from maybe John Coleshaw as Tom Baker, and also Chris Thompson as Patrick Troughton and Peter Capaldi. But Jonathan Carley is just absolutely fantastic. I heard very little difference between him and John Hurt. He's perfect. Big Finish, they made the right choice. They made a fantastic job casting him, and I think he also voiced the character for that Doctors Assemble thing last year. The thing that Doctor Who Lockdown did, which is probably what got him cast in the Big Finish audios for these box sets. And yeah, it's probably one of their best ever casting decisions of a new actor being brought in to play an old character's role, or just a new cast member, full stop. And yeah, he's just absolutely amazing. It's uncanny and it's perfect. Jonathan Carley is absolutely fantastic as the War Doctor. Of course, so was John Hurt. But if you had to get somebody else in to take over from the role a few years later, this guy puts in 110% effort into it. Fantastic. He more than lives up to the legacy of Sir John Hurt, and I think Sir John would be incredibly proud of Jonathan Carley for this performance, at least for these first three stories. At least we'll see how the following three box sets are like, but for this box set, he's awesome. Speaking of recasts, we've got Veronica Roberts taking over from Claire Higgins as Ahilia, the High Priestess of the Sisterhood of the Flame on Khan, who we met in The Night of the Doctor and also saw a few times in Series 9 as well. And Veronica Roberts also manages to capture the Ahilia role really well. It is a bit of a shame Claire Higgins couldn't come back, but Veronica Roberts does a great job in the role in the first episode of this box set, so I'm not going to be complaining too much. We also have Commodore Tamazan, played by Adele Anderson, who returns after appearing in the 8th Doctor Time War 4 box set, and she's playing the 6th incarnation of Tamazan, having 2 previous incarnations, each being in the 2nd and 3rd box sets of the 8th Doctor Time War series, which were the 4th and 5th incarnations, and then the 6th incarnation appeared in the 4th box set, and now she's back here, as is Cardinal Rasmus, played by Chris Jarman, who was also in at least one story of the 8th Doctor Time War 4 box set. And we also have Helen Goldwyn playing a character in this box set. She's played many characters in Big Finish, but specifically for the War Doctor series, she played a character in the first story from the 3rd box set, Professor Crane, where she played more of an older, more mature scientific character. This time round, she plays a younger Time Lord commander person who works on behalf of the President and the War Council. FYI, Rassilon is referenced a few times in the first story. So by this point, Rassilon has been resurrected, and maybe the events of Gallifrey Time War have taken place by this point. So the Doctor is aware of at least one of the Rassilons from those box sets. If this takes place after Gallifrey Time War 4, which is the 12th and currently latest Gallifrey series, then it would be Richard Armitage. One final note about casting is that we have a character from the television series who comes back, but played by a new actor. The character Birok from Warrior's Gate in the 4th Doctor's era comes back. And I can't remember who played him there, but John Dorney voices him here. And that's the main characters notable. I will mention characters specific to certain stories later on down the line, but in terms of the main characters of this box set, all ones coming back from a previous audio story, or in the case of Birok, TV story, then and Ahelia as well, then it was worth mentioning here. So the War Doctor begins Fortune 5. There isn't really much of a story arc or through-line story in this box set like there is in the War Doctor box sets. Besides that, this is the first couple of events, some of the first couple of adventures for the War Doctor, and he's trying to find his feet. He's trying to know how he gets started and work his way through the beginnings of his time as the War Doctor. I was going to say the beginnings of the Time War, but that happened ages ago. But the beginnings as his incarnation and seeing how he becomes before we go on to more larger scale adventures later down the line, perhaps. And in that respect, this is a brilliant start to the War Doctor audio series. Also, CD-wise, Big Finish have been making these more kind of compact cases as opposed to the individual ones, which makes the boxes a bit smaller as well, but it does lose the bit of a charm of an individual story having its own release you can step out, as well as its own cover, because that's now just the main disc art is the main cover art. Also, what's odd is that the first 4 box sets did have a bonus disc each, making them 4 discs, but this one they put the interviews on the end of the episodes. But yeah, I think they could have gone with a 4th disc if they wanted to. The interviews are about just over a quarter of an hour each, and then you've got some music you can slip on at the end, so you could have had a 4th disc. That's more of a nitpick than a complaint. But actually, there was even space for a 4th disc right here. Well, never mind. This is also the first War Doctor box set to not be directed by Nicholas Briggs. Nicholas Briggs directed all 12 of the John Hurt War Doctor box set audios. This one is notable for being directed by Louise Jameson, aka Leela. Woo! The stories in this box set, which are Light the Flame by Matt Fitton, Lion Hearts by Lou Morgan, and The Shadow Squad by Andrew Smith. We start off with Light the Flame, which is technically a post-regeneration story for the War Doctor, a bit like how the 4th and final story of the 6th Doctor, The Last Adventure, The Brink of Death, was technically his regeneration story. At least a proper one, anyway. So, Light the Flame serves as a post-regeneration story for the War Doctor. And he definitely needed some sort of post-regeneration story, and so I'm glad we got that here. We got a really good one here. I won't say it's amazing, it's my least favourite of the story of the box set, but I think it's a really great one. Matt Fitton does a great job with it, capturing the War Doctor's personality and his how his character was like right after the events of Stephen Moffat's The Night of the Doctor. And it's a really great adventure with the Doctor and Khan. Khan wanting to protect himself from the Daleks and the Time War, and some Time Lords coming down to try and help the Doctor and then trying to protect Khan, but one of them actually kind of has an ulterior motive, and they want to take the the flame, the sacred fire, to Gallifrey, where it's protected and can't just bloody burn for all they care. This is Helen Goldwyn's character, by the way. Commander Sanmar, and she wants to take the flame, the sacred fire to Gallifrey, whilst Khan can just bloody burn for all she cares, and claims that she's been sent personally by the Lord President. This is something Commodore Tamazan later tries to hide if she was even involved with it, and if not, then she definitely disavows Sanmar for being discovered. But it's got some interesting stuff where Sanmar and Rasmus come to see the Doctor, and then Sanmar goes off to try and take the flame, much to the Sisterhood of Khan's disgust. We also have this really great character called Lithia, who's kind of like the soothsayer of the Sisterhood of Flames, Sister of the Flame, and she's probably my favourite supporting character of this box set. And there's a lot of fantastic supporting characters in this box set. And she has a great dynamic with the Doctor, and then later with Sanmar, and there's some great tension there. Sanmar does kill her, spoiler alert, but she then comes back as these sort of elementals or something. Yeah. And gets her own back on Sanmar as punishment for what she did. And also the stuff with the Doctor, Rasmus, and Ahilia confronting Sanmar and discovering what's going on, and the conversation with Tamazan across the communicator. It's some really great stuff here. I think it's a really great start, and really enjoyed it. So overall, I thought this one was a pretty great start to this series. I won't say it's perfect, but it's definitely a really great start. Next up, we have Lionhearts, which is sort of a sequel to a Doctor Who story I don't actually like, although this is a story Will does like, and that is Warrior's Gate. Will put it as one of his top 10 stories of the Fourth Doctor in his ranking of such on his own personal channel. But if you checked out my Nicholas Payne Retro channel, one of my personal ones, you would know that I absolutely hate this Warrior's Gate. I don't like it very much. Byrrc was an alright character in that story, I guess. This story is sort of a sequel to that story. It brings back the Frowls. Is it the Frowls? I believe it's the Frowls. From that story. Yeah, the Frowls. And Byrrc is one of the characters there, and the Doctor is an old friend of him. And they kind of reference that. I am wondering, because Warrior's Gate takes place in East Space, but this takes place in End Space, so maybe there's a Big Finish audio out there, but I'm wondering how the Frowls got from East Space to End Space and sort of got themselves with the Time Lords, because this is definitely the Byrrc who met the Doctor in Warrior's Gate, not an alternative universe one. So I'm guessing the Frowls made it to End Space just at around the same time Romana did, I guess. I'm not entirely sure. Maybe there's something in the Gallifrey audios about it. But or maybe another Doctor's audio. But in terms of going direct from Warrior's Gate to here, the Frowls have made it to End Space. And the Doctor is trying to rescue Byrrc, his old friend, who's also acting as a spy for the Time Lords, and he is joined by Valletta, played by Marilyn Nabi, to try and rescue him alongside a Time Lord lieutenant called Lorinus, played by Amy Downham, who's my second favourite supporting character in this box set. She's just so great. I like how the story's coming more from her point of view, from Lorinus' point of view, and she gets caught up in the Doctor and Valletta's mission to rescue Byrrc, and then discover that Byrrc's not the only prisoner being kept by, I think it's the Valerians or something, who are in league with the Daleks, and they're offering to hand over Byrrc to the Daleks for anything they want. Not expecting the Daleks to stab them in the back, as per always, or in the Daleks' case, shoot them in the back. But the Doctor, Valletta, and know that there's more Frowls down there, and Lorinus discovers that Byrrc is not the only prisoner being kept by the Valations, or whatever I said. So they have to come up with this way to get all of them out, because Byrrc would not want to leave them, and Valletta wants to get him out as well, and Lorinus needs him for his information for the Time War, so they have to come up with a way to get everybody out. Initially, Lorinus thinks he's just taking Byrrc, but later it's revealed that the Doctor had actually saved all of the Thralls. But yeah, this is a really great episode and has some great interactions between the Doctor, Lorinus, and Valletta, and then later with Birok and his gang. I did feel that bits where Birok is standing firm for his kin whilst keeping in character for him and the Thralls. It did go on a bit too long, and it did get a little bit tedious, just a tiny little bit. I think maybe if they cut it down a little bit, especially considering you that past this was maybe not an act, but certainly they would come up with, they have a plan to get the others out, and Birok just has to go along with it for a bit. But some of him standing firm can be a little bit tedious, where after a little bit of a while, even though you know where he's coming from, and especially more so after you know that he sort of has some sort of involvement with the plan. That's my only kind of nitpick with this. This one. An idea that they do really well in this story is that Lorinus is sort of telling Commodore Tamazan this story, it's sort of presented as her telling the story, apart from the last little bit, which takes place afterwards, and it works really well. I also like the implications that the Doctor did leave some of the Thralls to die, the other Thralls to die in the chamber, and Tamazan believes that the Doctor is finally is doing what it takes to help win the Time War. But it's then revealed that the Doctor in fact saved them, and knowing the Doctor, it's done in a really clever way, and it works really greatly into the climax of the story, and it presents a happy ending to the adventure. And Lorinus is probably one of the few supporting characters of these War Doctor box sets who makes it out alive and isn't a series regular or something. So I do hope we see more of her in the future. Maybe in the next box set. I'm not sure if she's in the cast list. Maybe she'll be in a future box set. Veclin returned in the 4th box set of the original series after being a notable presence throughout the first, and she will be in the next War Doctor Begins box set as well, so maybe there's a chance for Lorinus to make a return later down the line as well. If so, I look forward to that character's return. Finally, we have the best War Doctor story as of time recording, August 2021, and when this video goes out, it should either be December 2021 or slightly afterwards, meaning Warmonger is about to be released or has just been released. But as of the first 5 War Doctor box sets, including this one, my personal favourite story is the final one of this box set, The Shadow Squad, which once again confirms my opinion of Andrew Smith being the best writer for the War Doctor box sets. The Shadow Squad is fantastic. I love this story. First of all, it sees the Doctor and Commodore Tamazan teaming up together. They're on this spaceship separately, and then they team up together to go on this mission. So a bit like Cardinal Lystria throughout box set 4 of the John Hurt box sets, Tamazan is sort of the companion in this episode. She's been sent on a mission to inform a sleeper agent about this Dalek attack, and she has to get in contact with this with some people at this place on this planet, and when they go to deliver this message to the character Draven, played by Tracy Wiles, who I believe is also a Big Finish regular actress, and she plays Tracy Wiles also plays 2 other characters in this story as well, Shira and the Sentinel. But after they meet that character, she's killed in an earlier point in time, and the Doctor and Tamazan have to go and find these other people to try and help stop the Daleks, and it turns out this is a elite squad of Gallifreyan soldiers called the Shadow Squad, led by Trestor, played by Kit Young. And basically, what the Shadow Squad are, they've been raised from birth to be soldiers and hidden away in this on this planet, raised and taught and trained by robots as an elite squad to attack the Daleks. And it's soon revealed that this was all set up to try and battle a new Dalek weapon, which is a Dalek which is able to go back in time and kill Time Lords who are heroes or victors of notable battles where Daleks are defeated and Time Lords win, and it's able to change time so those battles are won by the Daleks instead of the Time Lords. It's a really great and clever concept, and this is what happened to Trestor at the start of the story, before the Time Lords then put him as one of the people in the Shadow Squad, and also what happens to Draven. And it's because of this being hidden away of this planet, is how the Shadow Squad are not able to leave any time traces or footprints across time, which allows them to not be tracked by this Dalek weapon and exterminated, unlike characters like Draven or the Doctor and Tamazan. And the Doctor goes down to this cavern down to try and confront the Daleks. And I love the ad-lib, I believe. It wasn't in the script, but there's a couple of lines Jonathan Carney adds to when the Doctor's going down to the bunker with this Dalek, and the ad-libbing, or whoever it was who added those lines for the Doctor to say, they're just absolutely the highlight of the story. They're so funny, they're so good. I really enjoyed it. I like how the War Doctor at this point in time has a bit more humour. That's not to say there wasn't any humour in the first 4 box sets. The War Doctor had quite a bit of humour here and now, but in this story he's got quite a bit of humour, and I really enjoyed that. He's still finding his feet as the War Doctor, but he's still got a bit of humour to a pretty serious character. He doesn't consider himself a monster yet. He's not worn and drawn out. This is early days, so he's got himself a bit of humour, which I really like, and he's really anti-enthusiasm, which I enjoy. Apologies for any noise you might hear from other rooms. But yeah, he goes down to the Dalek caverns to confront the Daleks. I do have to mention, between this box set, Casualties of War, and Forged in Fire, the Dalek Time Strategist voice has changed. It sounded more like the Supreme Daleks in the other War Doctor box sets. But here he sounds a bit more like, and maybe more like the Strategist from the Dalek webcast animation series, mini-series that was released last autumn. I'm not sure why. Maybe there was something in the change of voice in other stories, but certainly between Casualties of War and Forged in Fire, production-wise, the Dalek Time Strategist has gone from sounding something more like the Supreme Dalek to something more like the Strategist from the Dalek's animated webcast series. And whilst it's a great voice, I do find it a bit odd that they changed the voice for this particular Dalek. Maybe if it was another Dalek, it would make more sense. But yeah, it's a bit odd. We also get introduced to a new type of Dalek, which is, as mentioned, is able to go back in time and exterminate people before they are involved in battles, changing Time Lord victories to Dalek victories. And it's a pretty interesting Dalek. Again, it's got sort of that strategist Dalek Khan type of voice to it, and it's a really great. It's a great character in its own right. It's quite a fun presence on screen, and the concept is all really great, and it's just an absolute delight to listen to. It's just absolutely amazing. Nicholas Briggs, as always, does fantastic jobs as the Daleks. I'm just a little confused about why the Dalek Time Strategist has a different voice in this box set compared to previous appearances. But maybe that's something to do with something production-wise between Casualties of War's release and this box set's release. Anyway, so the Shadow Squad eventually infiltrates the bunker, and they're able to stop the Time Lord Strategist with help from Tamazan. However, because Tamazan got involved, the Dalek that goes back in time and kills Time Lords before they were involved in victories tries to go back and kill her, but the Doctor and Trestor are able to go back in time and stop the Dalek that accompanies the time-travelling Dalek, and then the Doctor is able to kill the time-travelling Dalek and change history, so there's no Shadow Squad, and the Daleks never builds this weapon. This does mean the Dalek's Time Strategist is still alive, but it also means the Doctor and the Doctor and Tamazan are okay, and there's a nice tie-in with an event that happened earlier in the story with what happens at the end, where a soldier saves them from a Dalek. Turns out it was the Dalek with the Dalek travelling back in time, and Trestor was the one to kill it before he was killed by the Dalek who travelled back in time, and then the Doctor killed that Dalek by sending it into nothingness and having it explode when it gets there. Basically the time vortex, and that's what resets everything. And yeah, the ending's really nice and sweet, where an alternative Trestor is about to go into battle, and he has this great speech, and then he has a great conversation with the Doctor, and it's a great speech and a nice heartfelt moment where they're fighting for their families and their friends as well as their planet, and it's a really great speech, and I love the interactions between Trestor and the Doctor in those last couple minutes. This is just an absolutely amazing story. I really love this one. So overall scores, I would give Light the Flame a 8 out of 10. I thought it was a great one, but I don't think it's entirely perfect. But as the first one of this box set and a post-regeneration story for this, for the War Doctor, it's still a really great listen to. And Jonathan Carney is just amazing in the role, and he just gets better and better as the series goes along, which brings me to Lionhearts, which I would give a 9 out of 10. It might have been out 10 out of 10, but there were a few tiny little nitpicks that didn't quite make it to 10. The Shadow Squad, on the other hand, is an easy 10 out of 10. This story is absolutely fantastic. I love it. And as I've gone on record before, it's my favourite War Doctor story so far. This brings the score up from 8, 9, 10, which is basically equivalent to 23 nines. This would make this box set 27 out of 30, which makes it a 9 out of 10 overall. Unfortunately, that does mean Casualties of War is still the best one, objectively, with a slightly higher score out of 30. But this one is probably my personal favourite box set, subjectively. Objectively, it's Casualties of War. Subjectively, it's this one. This is just an absolutely cracking box set. I love it. I really enjoyed it. And I loved listening to it on the first listen as well as the second one. The other ones I liked quite a bit on their first listening, especially certain stories, but some stories not so much. This one I loved listening on the first listen, and then second listen was also a joy to listen to, and it's such a great box set. Really enjoyed it, and I am looking forward to the second box set, especially as they, at the end of the behind the scenes, they teased that the next one would be a bit more action-packed, and there's going to be some great stories in there. And with the box set artwork and cast list being revealed, including the return of Veclin, played by Beth Chalmers, I am looking at the title of the box set. I am really looking forward to seeing what comes next in the War Doctor Begins box set series. So with these reviews hopefully coming out monthly or bi-monthly, this means we should be at earliest in December with this review, which means the next War Doctor box set review should be coming within the next month or two, and that will be the War Doctor Begins Warmongerer. So I'm looking forward to that one. I'm also considering doing a ranking of the stories of the first 6 box sets following that one. I think it'd be a bit pointless to do it now and release it just before Warmongerer comes out, because then I've got to change it and do it all again later anyway. So I think I will do a ranking of the first 6 box set stories after Warmongerer comes out. I might do an updated one after the other 2 Begins box sets come out as well, but that will be a year later after the 8th box set has come out. I also don't know whether they'll stop at 8 or whether they'll carry on doing more, like with the War Master. I believe they were going to do 4, but now they're just doing more of them. The 8th Doctor Time War and Gallifrey Time War, I'm not so sure. I think they're stopping with 4, but they could easily go on and do more. And the same could be said for this, the War Doctor Begins box sets, or even do more, or maybe do War Doctor box sets set after the John Hurt ones in the lead up to the Day of the Doctor and the novel Engines of War. We'll see how it goes. What's for certain is that Jonathan Carney as the War Doctor means that this is going to be a great run of box sets, especially if the first one's anything to go by. And I'm highly looking forward to and anticipating the second box set when it comes out. Hello everyone, Nick here. Day after recording the War Doctor Begins Forged in Fire review. That was the same day I recorded the War Doctor Casualties of War box set, and today I was editing that one's review. And I realised that at all this time, I've been calling the War Doctor Begins box set Warmongerer, when it's actually Warbringer. So this is a little bit at the end of the Forged in Fire review to say that whenever I said Warmongerer, I meant Warbringer, and that will be the title of the War Doctor Begins box set. So apologies for all that misunderstanding, and I'll see you guys next time for the War Doctor Begins Warbringer review, or whatever video comes up next. I'll definitely do the Warbringer review later down the line, of course. Until then, thank you so much for watching this review. I'll see you guys next time. Goodbye.